Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everyone. This is your professor, Miss Natalie Murray. I hope that all of you are staying well and healthy, not going out too much, and not exposing yourselves too much. So, stay in. Anyway, as you already know, during this 30-day state of emergency, we will be continuing courses online as much as possible. This is one of my solutions, is to do a narrated PowerPoint. I think this is also good for those of you who need me to speak slower because I will be teaching as I'm narrating. I do not have a script, so it's going to be the same kind of experience that you would get in class, but I will probably be speaking slower because I also need to make sure that I'm making sense. Now, keep that in mind because this is, unscripted. I will probably make some mistakes. Bear with me. Like I said, it's not going to be perfect, but you get the real experience. This is the first PowerPoint of maybe 2 or 3 this week. I do expect you to listen to them in their entirety, just like a lesson. If you are not following along, that's on you. Because when classes resume and you don't know what's going on, well, you lose. This is college. Let me just say that this will be posted on Facebook and also on Moodle. So, you guys can check, of course, Moodle if you want to. I won't post maybe too many things, just the assignments for you to submit, your assignments, for you to submit your assignments, maybe some quizzes, even though we can do that on Facebook, but I might just do it on Moodle. Not too much on Moodle. You still check it, of course, like I said, for submissions, but I will also post these PowerPoints on the Facebook group because that's what you're used to by now. Well, in addition to actually seeing my face, I did not turn on the video because you don't need to see me talking into a camera. So you can just sit back, relax, and listen, grab you something to drink. Make sure you have your book next to you, as well as a pen or pencil. Of course, I recommend pencil, so you're not scratching out too much stuff, but if you want to, that's on you. Let's see what else. And also the first draft of your process analysis essay. So before we get started, I am going to explain some administrative details as I usually do, and then we'll get into the lesson. Excuse me if you hear me say a lot, because that's something that, native speakers do of any language. We have some kind of transition, which is not, of course, good etiquette when speaking, but I will do my best. Anyway, let's move on to the administrative details. Okay, everyone, we are now in week 9. We did skip week 8. So in this week, it's the same as week 8. Our objectives are to complete the editing stage and also rewrite your process analysis essay. So of course you cannot print 2 copies and hand them in to me. So skipping on down where you see rewrite your essay with the corrections from class, yes, do that as well as the corrections that you will make from these PowerPoints this week. Rewrite your essays, please edit and take your time to edit. And for now, you're going to submit your essay on Moodle. So when you log into Moodle, you're going to see a couple of topics / units. The first one will be process analysis essay, the editing process. So click on that unit, not go to it, but actually click on it. If you need to. I think your side looks different from mine, and I will show you on the next slide what it looks like for me. So if you log in, you might just see process analysis essay, the editing process. If that's the case, then click on where it says second draft process analysis essay. So click on that link and it will allow you to upload your file. Yes, you must upload a file. not a picture. It should be a file. You can't do text submission through Moodle. You have to upload a file. So you're not doing this on Google Drive. Again, you are not uploading this on Google Drive. You are uploading your essay on Moodle. The due date is Sunday, March 22nd by midnight, 11:59 p.m. Okay, you may not submit it too early. The earliest that you can submit it, let's see, I set it for 7 a.m. on Saturday, March 21st, because I do not want you to just say, oh, I'm done with my essay and submit it like tomorrow. Absolutely not. You need to follow through the lessons, and you really need to work on your structure and your grammar, and understanding the writing process. Otherwise, there's no point to this course. So if you want to submit it a little bit early, 7 a.m., March 21st, it'll be open. The deadline is 11:59 by March 22nd. Now, on Moodle, I can remove the access for you to submit it late. I did not do that this time. So I will see a time marker, okay? So remember, there's always a grace period. And because some of you are new to Moodle, I will not be so harsh. I will go ahead and allow late submissions, but I will see a timestamp. So if your essay is very late, well, you know what happens. Points off. Later on, be prepared, of course, to turn in your brainstorming, your outline, your first draft with all the markings and corrections, even from now, but as you mark on it, that's fine. Doesn't need to be clean. The second draft is what obviously will be clean because it's going to be electronic. And next week, inshallah, we'll talk about cause and effect. All right, so let's get into it. The next slide, I'm going to show you what it looks like on Moodle to upload your essay. Okay, everyone, very briefly, this is what it looks like on my side. As you can see it in Arabic. What is that? Katabwa Bahath. You get it, writing and research, okay? Process analysis essay, the editing process. So underneath it, when you go to your Moodle, you'll see this hopefully. If not, click on the topic, process analysis essay, the editing process. And then you need to click on second draft, process analysis essay. Click on that, and then you can submit it there. Now this is through turnitin.com. This is for those of you that might want to Google Translate. Well, Google Translate's different, but those of you that might want to copy and paste, maybe you're tempted to cheat a little bit. You shouldn't, because we've already written it. All you're doing is editing. Why do you need to copy and paste and plagiarize? I don't know. But anyway, in case you're thinking about it, think again, because on Moodle, yes, it will tell me if you copied and pasted, and it will show you also how original your work is. So I have allowed you to upload it again if it's not very original, because obviously if I see it's plagiarized, it's a 0. So it will tell you if they think your work is authentic. So if you are copying, direct sentences from a website or a book, it's going to catch it because most of those resources are online. I can find it. So please don't do that. Do original work. And also don't use Google Translate. For those of you that had a lot of grammar issues and you feel like, oh, I need to do this better. Google Translate is just as bad or probably worse. For example, if I Google Translate something from English to Arabic and send it to you, it's going to send you everything in some weird kind of translated Fusha. Okay, so it's the same thing to me. It's going to sound weird, and I'm going to know that you Google Translate it, and that's also a problem. You're cheating yourself as well. So anyway, long story short, this is how you would submit your essay. And at this time, the only thing additional on this page will be the PowerPoint. All right, let's get started. Okay, everyone, we're going to continue from where we left off. And this is the part that might get a little bit lengthy. Let's see. First, I want you to open your books to page 20. We're going to skip to part 4. We're going to go back to part 3. Okay, because in class I talked to you about sentence structure and syntax in regards to complex sentences and compound sentences. So let's continue with sentence structure, and then we'll talk about unity and coherence, because we can't talk about that unless you get your sentence structure correct. Be prepared with a pen or pencil, again, because we are going to go through the exercises together. Okay, so you can pause this if you haven't gotten your book. And the picture on the top, in the top left corner, I'll explain it in a minute. So on page 20, part 4, it says editing your writing. In English, of course, all sentences have to contain a subject, a verb, and an object to some extent. It needs to be a complete sentence in terms of subject, verb, and object, and then also a complete thought. Some of what I'm noticing in your writing is it's an incomplete thought, or it might be a comma splice, a run-on, a sentence fragment. So in class, we talked about independent clauses, and I also introduced to you another term. In the book, they call it main clauses. It's the same thing. An independent clause is the same as a main clause. Independent means that this phrase, this clause, could stand on its own as a complete sentence. It's a complete idea. It can stand alone. For example, as you can see on page 20, main clause, I read my speech at graduation. Not I read. I read my speech at graduation. Finish. That's a complete thought. It has a subject, which is I. It has a verb, which is, in this case, read. And then the object is everything else that is, of course, attached to the verb, my speech at graduation. So that's good. Excellent. If it said, let's see, my speech at graduation. My speech at graduation. What is that? Nothing. That's not a complete idea. That would be an incomplete idea. That would be dependent. Okay, so that term is still the same. Dependent. A dependent clause cannot stand on its own. As it says on page 20, a dependent clause does not contain a complete idea. Okay, it cannot stand alone. It's an incomplete thought. A lot of times a dependent clause often starts with a subordinating conjunction or a subordinate conjunction. And some examples are after, before, although, because, which you guys know I'm not very fond of using the word because at the beginning of a sentence, but that style has changed over the years, so you can, but really it's not the most becoming to use because at the beginning of the sentence, but you can. If it's a complete sentence, go for it. Why not? Okay, since, when, or while. These are called subordinate conjunctions, and there are a lot of them. As you can see in the top left corner of this slide, there's more. We have as if, as long as, how. We have whenever. We have till, unless. Lest is not used as often, at least in modern English. Maybe for British English it's a little bit more common. Also whilst, whilst, W-H-I-L-S-T, that's more a British subordinate conjunction, but you can use it, but that's very British, or Australian. I think they might use it as well. Anyway, so there's a ton of subordinating or subordinate conjunctions. You will become more familiar with them as you write more and as you read more. versus the fanboys, the coordinating conjunctions, as we know, there's only 7 fanboys, that's it. Coordinating conjunctions, there's many of them, but pretty much when you use a subordinating conjunction at the beginning of the clause, it automatically becomes dependent. Automatically. If you see any of these subordinating conjunctions, you should know right away it is dependent. Let's look back at page 20. So a dependent clause can be attached to a main clause in order to form a complex sentence, okay? So we know that a complex sentence consists of one independent clause and one main clause. That's what makes a complex sentence. So in class, when I keep saying you need to vary your sentence structure, you need to vary your sentence structure, I keep telling you, use complex sentences, use compound sentences, and compound complex sentences, okay? Anyway, a dependent clause can come before or after the main clause. And of course, the punctuation is different. If the dependent clause comes at the beginning of your sentence, you need to use a comma, okay? If the dependent clause is at the end of the sentence, generally you do not need to use a comma, even for the word which, okay? Sometimes with which, not always, but sometimes. So let's look at the example on page 20. The example says, when I read my speech at graduation, all my friends and family were amazed. Let's break that down. When I read my speech at graduation. Okay. Now, looking at that clause, if you take out when, then it becomes independent. I read my speech at graduation. But because we put the subordinating conjunction at the beginning of this clause, sorry, it's an incomplete clause now, so it's dependent. We can't let it stand by itself. It can't stand on its own. So when I read my speech at graduation, okay, what? There's more to tell me. You can't stop there. Then we go to a main clause. All my friends and family were amazed. Great. And as you can see, we had to put a comma after graduation because that is the rule. Next, we have the independent or main clause at the beginning of the sentence. All my friends and family were amazed. Great. We know that's independent because that's a complete thought. It also has subject, verb, and an object. Now, the dependent clause, when I read my speech at graduation, bam, that's it. There's no comma in between amazed or when. There doesn't need to be. There's no interruption in this case, and that's the rule. Okay, so just remember how to use punctuation properly, and remember how to make sure your sentences are complete. A lot of you are writing dependent clauses as a sentence, and it's not a sentence. It's not a sentence. But most of you understand that. Where we have a problem is comma splices and run-on sentences, which we'll get to in just a moment. So if you'll go down to page 20, oh, excuse me, told you I was going to mess up. Okay, we're on page 20. Go down to exercise 1. It says identifying main and dependent clauses. So it asks you to underline the main clause and circle the dependent clause. So let's do that together. And of course, add punctuation if necessary. Good practice. Number 1 is done for us. Number 2 says, I felt very confident because I had spent a long time practicing. Okay, so first of all, identify the subordinating conjunction. It should be because, right? So because that word is a subordinating conjunction, everything from because after it has to be the dependent clause. Because I had spent a long time practicing. Okay? Now notice how that, some students would write it this way. when I say because can be used at the beginning of a sentence, it has to be a complex sentence in order for it to be correct. So this would never be a correct sentence anyway. And then I felt very confident. That's our main clause. So underline, I felt very confident, and then circle because I had spent a long time practicing. Number 3, since it was my graduation, I bought a beautiful new outfit. You can also hear the pause, so it's easy for you to determine where the comma goes as well. Okay, so in this case, let's look for the subordinating conjunction. Since, right? So since it was my graduation should be circled as our dependent clause. I bought a beautiful new outfit should be the main clause. Underline that. Okay, let's go a little bit faster. Number 4, although the ceremony was very long, nobody was bored. Okay, you should circle although the ceremony was very long and underline nobody was bored. Okay, and in number 3, there should be a comma because the dependent clause is at the beginning. So the comma would be after graduation. Same for number 4, there should be a comma, and it should be after long. Okay, number 5, we went out for a fancy meal after the ceremony ended. You're going to circle after the ceremony ended and underline we went out for a fancy meal. No commas needed because the independent clause is at the beginning. Number 6, my family took a lot, I don't like that word, my family took a lot of photographs, which I still enjoy looking at. You're going to circle which I still enjoy looking at and underline my family took a lot of photographs. Even though I said that out of order, it's still the same. No comma is needed for this. And notice that which is used. Okay? A lot of times people will put a comma with which. Generally, you don't have to unless your clauses are very long. Then we add in a comma just so it's easier for the reader to understand. Okay, so that finishes page 20. And that finishes the topic regarding the main clauses and dependent clauses, so complex sentences. Use them. Also, it's a way you can also correct some of your comma splices, but we'll go into that in just a moment. On page 21, we have run-on sentences. Okay, run-on sentences are incorrect, and I notice them a lot. Yes, I'm using my least favorite word. I see them immensely in your writing, and it's very easy to correct, though. That's the great thing. It's very easy to correct, but you need to keep this in mind that a comma is not a period. It doesn't just solve your problems magically. And semicolons should be used sparingly. Don't use them too much. Same thing with colons. You shouldn't use them too much either. So as you can see on page 21, it says run-on sentences are incorrect. Run-on sentences, they have 2 main clauses put together with no connector or a punctuation between them. Okay, so there's no connector, meaning that you haven't connected them with a coordinating conjunction, and you've just put a comma there, which doesn't solve the problem, like I said before. So that's, comma splices, we used to call them, but they're also run-on sentences. More specifically, that's a comma splice. So when you see that on your rubrics, that's what I'm talking about, this run-on sentences. So Langston Hughes, going back to the example, Langston Hughes was an important poet of the Harlem Renaissance. He also wrote very fine short stories. Okay, now if I read that as it actually looks, There's no punctuation, there's no connector. Langston Hughes was an important poet of the Harlem Renaissance. He also wrote very fine short stories. I'm out of breath. Where's the punctuation? So Langston Hughes was an important poet of the Harlem Renaissance is an independent clause by itself. He also wrote very fine short stories is also an independent clause by itself. So we need to connect them. We need to make it a compound sentence, or we need to make it a compound sentence. That's pretty much what we need to do. Or we can separate them with a comma. You can make two separate sentences. That's okay too. It really depends. In academic writing, remember, you want to vary your sentence structure. You don't want to write simple sentences. It would be the same as a car going stop, go, stop, go. There's no flow and it's very annoying. It's not very fun to read. So I would suggest in this case, let's make it a compound. Okay, so as we can see in the next example, it can also occur, a run-on can also occur when separated by a comma. So again, as you can see in the example with Langston Hughes, there's a comma between Renaissance and he, problem. Okay, can't do that. So we can correct it. Where it says a run-on sentence can be corrected in several ways, please follow along. What we can do is we can actually make it a complex sentence, and we can add a subordinating conjunction. Okay, of course we have to choose one that would make the most sense. In this case, they chose although. So although Langston Hughes was an important poet of the Harlem Renaissance, he also wrote very fine short stories. Okay, so although makes perfect sense here. He was a poet, but he wrote short stories. Okay, so we have contrasting information. You can also just add a coordinating conjunction that makes sense, one of the fanboys that you already know, and we can make it a compound. Okay, you should use a comma before the coordinating conjunction because you are connecting two independent clauses. So you should use a comma before your coordinating conjunction. Most of the time when we don't use that comma, it's because it's not a coordinated conjunction. Wait, does that make sense? Yes, exactly. So usually, Okay, back up. So the reason that we don't use a comma before a coordinating conjunction, the only reason would be is that the second clause is not an independent clause. Like, for example, it would be a dependent clause. Like, let's say, so Langston Hughes was an important poet of the Harlem Renaissance, but also wrote very fine short stories. So if I took out that subject, he, then the second part of that sentence is not, it's not complete anymore. It's dependent, or it's just a fragment. In that case, generally we don't use a comma. Okay, but it is more proper for you to use it correctly. In this case, just add the subject and do it properly. Add the comma, the coordinating conjunction. But it can be done that way. I have seen it that way. But the book example, in my opinion, is definitely more proper. So follow that way. So that's great. So now we have a compound sentence. You can also use punctuation to correct a run-on. You can use a period and just make them two separate main clauses, which means it would mean, which means it'll be, which means it will be, let's see, I'm talking too much. Okay, so it'll be two simple sentences, sorry. Or you can use a semicolon if the clauses are very close in meaning. And so that's why I said use semicolons sparingly. You don't want to use them maybe for your level in an academic essay, you're only writing so many paragraphs and words. You might only need to use them at most maybe twice or three times. You don't use them that often. They're not meant to connect all of your sentences. But in this case, because the clauses are so close in meaning, it's okay. It would work. The way that I was taught, also, we typically want to use them if maybe the sentence is a little lengthy, then and they're close in meaning, then we can combine the two clauses with the semicolon. This would work. To me, this doesn't look the best, but it'll work. Langston Hughes was an important poet of the Harlem Renaissance. Semicolon. His first poem was one of his most famous. So this would work, okay? Let's say that you've been using a lot of simple sentences and you want to, vary up your language. Then, okay, go for the semicolon. Okay, now so on the same page, page 20, let's go down to exercise 2. Again, if you need a break, you can always pause and come back. All right, so it says to identify the run-on sentences and put RO if it is a run-on sentence, and we'll look at attempting to correct it, and then put C next to the ones that are already correct. So number 1 says, my family and I came from Vietnam. I was 16 years old. It's a run-on sentence. How can we fix that? Should we add a semicolon? Nah, we shouldn't do that, right? It's too short, no need. We can add a full stop, and then we have 2 simple sentences. We can also use a coordinating conjunction. Let's see, my family and I came from Vietnam, and I was 16 years old. Doesn't sound that great, in my opinion, but it would work. It's grammatically correct. We can also make it complex and add when. My family and I came from Vietnam when I was 16 years old. Perfect. And because the main clause or independent clause is at the beginning of the sentence, we don't need to worry about a comma. Number 2, I came to the United States. I did not know English. Wrong, right? It's a run-on. Okay, so in that case, we can add a coordinated conjunction, a full stop. We can also make it a complex sentence. Number 3, let me give you a little bit more time to answer. Number 3, because I did not know English, I was worried about my future. Yep, besides the fact that it starts with because, that's a style issue, but it is correct. It is correct. And notice that we have the comma after the dependent clause. It's after the word English. Okay, number 4, people are very busy working. They do not have time to study. No, it is a run-on for sure. Definitely not correct there. All right, so we can, of course, remedy this issue. People are very busy working. We can put for this case, we could put a semicolon. That would be fine. We can put a coordinating conjunction. So I think so would be the best one for this one. And so on and so forth. And last one, number 5, since I now know both languages, I can help my parents. Indeed, I'm sure you found the subordinating conjunction, which is since, and yes, it is correct. All right, hopefully you got all those answers correct. Hopefully I didn't go too fast in that case. And we're still going, guys. We're going to page 22. Okay, so on page 22, exercise 3, it says correct run-on sentences with coordinating conjunctions. Okay, so use a coordinating conjunction from the box below, and yes, you can use them more than once if you want to. Because in this case, of course, it really depends on the meaning that the writer wants to portray. So, some of them might be better than others. Okay, number 1 is done for us. For number 2, the 19th century British novelist Charlotte Brontë wrote Jane Eyre, excuse me. I should know how to say that. Jane Eyre. Her younger sister Emily was the author of the classic Wuthering Heights. Wuthering Heights. Oh goodness, I can't see it in the book. Okay, hopefully your book is better in terms of it not being blurry. Yeah, I think that's his Wuthering. Anyway, so in that sentence, what can we do? Which coordinating conjunction can we use? And you don't have to sit there and rewrite the whole thing. You can just write the coordinating conjunction where it should be. Okay, for me, I chose the coordinating conjunction and. Okay, I chose and. So the 19th century British novelist Charlotte Brontë wrote Jane Eyre, and her younger sister Emily was the author of the classic Wuthering Heights. Eyre. Goodness, I can't believe I forgot that. Anyway, hey, happens to us native speakers too. Don't judge. Anyway, number 3, Upton Sinclair was concerned about social and political problems of his times. He wrote The Jungle exposing the unsanitary conditions of the meatpacking industry. Okay, so 2 coordinating conjunctions could work in this case. My first choice was so. To me, it sounds better because so means as a result of. As a result, he wrote The Jungle. You could use and. Yeah, you can use and. It would work grammatically, but so is definitely better. Okay, number 4, Jane Austen's original version of Pride and Prejudice was written when she was only 20 years old. It was not published for almost 2 decades. Okay, 2 coordinating conjunctions work pretty well here. We can use the word yet or but. Just like when you use the word I haven't done it yet, it has a similar meaning. Something was not completed in terms of time. So you can use yet, was only 20 years old, yet it was not published for almost 2 decades. Or you can use but it was not published for almost 2 decades. If you're not comfortable with the coordinating conjunction yet, then go with but. Number 5, the anthropologist Margaret Mead went to Samoa to collect data for her book. She was interested in researching the role of adolescent girls in non-Western culture. I'll put non-Western cultures, but that's okay. Girls in a non-Western culture. Yeah, so that solves the problem. All right, so if we were not following the book, you could use because. But in this case, they want us to use a coordinating conjunction. You can use for, and you can also use and. The anthropologist Margaret Mead went to Samoa to collect data for her book, for she was interested in researching. You can say that, that is proper English. It's I won't say it's I think the British use for as a coordinating conjunction a little bit more than us Americans, but you can't say it that way. So for us Americans, it sounds very proper for us. But you can also just use and, or you can use because. The last one, Number six, excuse me. Writers often use autobiographical information to write fiction. They adapt the background of other people for their story. Okay, in this situation, it really depends on what the writer is trying to convey. So even for me, it just depends. And I wouldn't use and here. It seems a little bit rough, I guess. I think so or but it depends on, like I said, what the writer is trying to convey. So writers often use autobiographical information to write fiction, so they adapt the background of other people for their story. So as a result of, they adapt it. Okay? We can have an alternative meaning, contradicting the first phrase from the second. Writers often use autobiographical information to write fiction, but they adapt the background of other people for their story. That works as well. So they use this information, but they want to let us know that, hey, it is adapted. Okay. All right, so that's 1 through 6. If you have any questions, of course, you can post it on Facebook. We're still going. All right, page 23. Exercise 4. If you need to pause, you can go ahead and pause here. Just checking my microphone. All right. Exercise 4. It says, use the subordinating conjunction in parentheses to correct the run-on sentence. All right. You might have to maybe move some words or subjects around for it to make sense. That's of course, up to you and up to the different sentence. But if you don't want to rewrite it, you can just quickly draw some arrows or just write the beginning of it in the lines provided. So number 1 is done for us. Number 2, Margaret Mitchell was able to write the epic novel Gone with the Wind. She understood the decline of the Southern plantation owners. Okay, so you can do this either way. You can make it so that the dependent clause is in the beginning, okay, or that the dependent clause is at the end. Some students think that just because to make it a complex sentence, that the dependent clause has to be at the beginning of the sentence. Absolutely not. It can be either way. The reason that we do this, I don't know if I addressed this in class, is for emphasis. Okay, so a lot of times we want to emphasize a certain point. Even if we're transitioning between sentences, I may decide to use a complex sentence because I need to maybe use time. I need to talk about a step, and I might want to start with after, for example. So I want to emphasize that so that the reader is not confused about the timing, in a logical order. So that's what I mean by emphasis. You might want to highlight a certain clause in that sentence because it helps to either get your point across or it helps to transition between thoughts in your paragraph or wherever. So in this case, because she understood the decline of the Southern plantation owners, Margaret Mitchell was able to write the epic novel Gone with the Wind. Or you can put because after Gone with the Wind. Yes, you can put because after Gone with the Wind. So Margaret Mitchell was able to write the epic novel Gone with the Wind because she understood. So either one works. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Number 3, Somerset Maugham was a doctor. He wrote many important novels, short stories, and plays. Don't let the listing confuse you. where it says novels, short stories, and plays. Okay, that's just a listing. Okay, for me, I wrote, although Somerset Maugham was a doctor, he wrote many important novels, short stories, and plays. To me, that makes sense. You still want to, for those of you that might have put although in front of he, although he wrote many important novels, I would caution on that because you would want to put the person's actual name in the beginning of the sentence. Okay, I shouldn't find out who you're talking about later in the sentence. Okay, so that's, in that case, you would want to keep that in mind. Let's see, number 4, some of the Harry Potter books have already been made into movies. They are so popular. Okay, so remember that this has to be logical. Okay, it has to be logical. So we should not say since they are so, we should not say since some of the Harry Potter books have blah, 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 blah. No, since they are so popular, some of the Harry Potter books have already been made into movies. Or you can say since the Harry Potter books are so popular, so again, it really depends on where we would be putting the sentence. If this is in the middle of a paragraph, then I probably already know the subject is Harry Potter books. If this was an isolated sentence, which why would it be? But if it was an isolated sentence, then you could say it in this way, since they are so popular. If it's an isolated sentence, you could say, so, let's see, since some of the Harry Potter books are so popular, then you can say it that way, So you can be more specific, you should be more specific about the subject in the dependent clause if it's an isolated sentence. If it's a sentence in the middle of a paragraph that we already know the subject, then you could say, since they are so popular, you can put the actual noun in the second part of the sentence. Then that's okay. It really depends. Writing is that way. It's flexible. Okay, number 5. Wallace Stevens received the Pulitzer Prize for his collected poems. He was vice president of an insurance company. Okay, so in this part, again, keeping in mind what I said earlier, I put the specific subject in the dependent clause. When Wallace Stevens, I'll read it out, was vice president of an insurance company, he received the Pulitzer Prize for his collected poems. Or again, in any of these situations, just like we said for number 4, you can also just put the dependent clause at the end and make your life easy. Wallace Stevens received the Pulitzer Prize for his collected poems when he was vice president of an insurance company. So if you don't want to worry about changing the subject and making it specific in the beginning, you can do that option as well. Okay, we're still going. So just because the class usually finishes in 50 minutes, you're sitting here and you're able to pause and go and come back. So this will go a little bit longer. This is going to go a lot longer, actually, because you can take your time, which is why I probably will not do 3 PowerPoints. I think I'll just do 2, so it'll equal the total amount of class time. Okay, so let's go on to the next language focus. So we're still on page 23. All right, so sentence fragments. So fragments, what are fragments? They're pieces. They're not complete. If we take a mirror and we smash it on the floor, God forbid, it's bad luck in some cultures, then all those pieces become fragments. Okay, can't do anything with them, right? Can't put it back together. That's not right. In this case, we have solutions. So look at the sentence fragment below. When I first started college, so this is a fragment because it is an incomplete thought. It looks like it has a subject, a verb, and an object. And technically it does. I first started college, even though that still doesn't sound right. Maybe if you said I started college first. But anyway, you get it. It has a subject and a verb and an object. But we have this subordinating conjunction, when. So automatically, it's incomplete. It's a fragment. Dependent clause cannot stand on its own. So how do we avoid this? Well, we have to complete the sentence, quite simply. So when I first started college, I was excited about facing the challenge. Okay? And the second part, she found out because I told her. So if the dependent clause, because I told her, were by itself, it would be a fragment. Right? Incomplete sentence, fragment. But we can add a main clause to make it complete. So that's how we fix those situations. Okay. Now, let me just quickly say that just because she found out is a main clause, just because it can stand on its own doesn't mean that that's a great sentence. If you're writing creatively, like a poem or a novel or a short story, you can play around with these kind of sentences, okay? Because in that kind of work, you don't have to be as specific, but this would not be appropriate for academic writing. You would want to add the object. You would want to be more specific. Okay, let's move on to page 24, exercise 5. So we're going to correct these sentence fragments. And I'm going to have to give you more time, but I also don't want to extend this PowerPoint much longer than I have to. So if you need more time, pause the PowerPoint. So exercise 5, rewrite each sentence fragment as a correct sentence by adding a main clause. Compare your answers with partner. You don't need to do that. Number 1 is done for us. So this is where you can pause. Okay? After I read the sentence, you can pause if you need more time to think. Number 2, when I visited her. Nope. Okay, so for me, I just said, let's see, she gave me a big hug when I visited her. Easy. I added a main clause. For all these, you would add a main clause. She gave me a big hug when I visited her. It works. Number 3, because she had a demanding job. I added, my sister did not have much time to spend with me because she had a demanding job. Still past tense, did not. Number 4, since I was her favorite. Okay, I always got what I wanted. So since I was her favorite, I always got what I wanted. Of course, there would be a comma after favorite. And going back to number 3, please, 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 listen. There is no comma before because. Remember what I said about English grammar? There are no rules. There are only guidelines. So yes, I did say that you need to have, a comma if you, of course, have the dependent clause in the beginning. In this case, the dependent clause isn't in the beginning anyway. So the same rule applies for because. You don't need a comma before because. It is not a coordinating conjunction. It's the same rule. You don't need a comma there. There's no comma before because. You guys have still done it even on your cause and effect, exams. Same thing, comma before because. No, 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 no. You don't need it ever. Okay. Number 5, after she got married. Okay, so after she got married, we lost contact. Or you can say we lost contact after she got married. And you know what I mean by lost contact. Happens. Get busy with our own lives. Okay. Hopefully my audio is still good. Let's see. Let's go down to the next language focus. We are almost done with this part. We still have to go back to unity and coherence. Okay. So page 24, language focus, verb consistency. This should be very obvious, and I don't mean to be belittling or patronizing, but this should be obvious. If you're talking about a situation in the past, most, if not all of your verbs also have to be in the past. If you're talking about something in the present, present tense or present progressive, you can use them interchangeably. They're not the same, but you can use them interchangeably. Future, you're talking in the future. Can we switch our verb tenses? I had that question from some students that, not you guys, some non-students, I guess you can call them, not my students, about verb consistency. And, honestly, yeah, you can switch verbs and you have to. What happens is you have to use the proper transitions. You have to use the proper signal words. So there's certain words that you are using that signals to the reader, okay, we're changing the time. It's just like when you read a novel. It changes all the time. The verbs change all the time. Let's say we were foreshadowing something, okay? The tenses are going to change, but there's language that's used to tell you I'm changing the time frame. Follow me, okay? So then that's why you can change verbs. In academic writing, it can be the same as well, especially if you're doing research. Especially when you get into your argumentative essays, you should be using research. So you might have to talk about something that happened in the past. You might have to use the perfect tenses to connect the past with the future. Again, everything is there for us to communicate better. It's not a punishment. It's just to help us communicate better and get the point across nicely. So when you I can't talk anymore. So when you model that good grammar, it's just better for the reader to understand what you're talking about and where you're coming from. The less questions a reader or someone in your audience has, the better. That means that you really did a good job by to express your point. Anyway, so consistency is to stay the same, okay? To be consistent, to stay the same. Okay, everyone, I had to pause because I'm using Bluetooth, and I have to go back and check to make sure that it didn't cut off anything that I said. So if the audio changed, that's because I turned off my Bluetooth and I'm talking into the computer microphone. Sorry about that. Just turn the volume up on your own device. Okay, so let's continue where I left off, just in case it didn't record. I was just talking about verb consistency and the fact that consistency, it means to stay the same, to be parallel in another sense, unity. So when describing facts and habits, we usually use the present tense because they haven't changed, so to speak. It's something that continues, but we don't need to use progressive, okay? We don't need to use progressive in this case. Tourists visit the Alamo, Tourists visit the Alamo and enjoy its history and beauty. Doesn't make sense to say tourists visiting They're not actually doing it consistently right now, so let's just use present tense. Okay, visit, enjoy. When telling a story, use the past tense. Okay, if it's in the past, we gotta tell it in the past. If you're telling a story, it's finished, so you have to use the past tense. And sometimes we can use the perfect tenses, as you already know. On our trip to San Antonio, Texas, we visited the famous Alamo and toured the old Spanish missions. And if we're using shifts, if we're shifting from the past to the present or whatever, then we can use some different forms. So in this example, so you may only shift from past to present tense if there is a logical reason for doing so. And that's what I was trying to tell you, is that if there's a logical reason, of course, for doing so, that should be already known. You also have to signal to the reader that I'm changing my tenses. Let's see. So the example says, in the 19th century, the Alamo was used as a fortress. However, today it is a popular tourist attraction. Hey, signal word, however, today, now, presently. Okay, so we've used a transition, and this is what I mean by transitions. There needs to be a flow, okay? Transitions are just signal words to help flow into the next sentence, to help flow into the next idea. That's all a transition is. It's not rocket science, right? So in that case, cool. Okay, it works. So now, page 25, because I'm sure you're very done with this slide by this point. Page 25, let's do the activity. I'm going to read each sentence and pause just for a few seconds so you can catch up. You should be able to figure out where the problem is immediately, because it sounds wrong. Okay, so you're going to hear some background noise. I'm very sorry. Bluetooth can't be trusted right now. Okay. So when you see the mistakes, there are 8. Let me make sure I have all of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, good. All right, just circle it, and you should be able to figure it out. Okay, while I was visiting China, I experience a special kind of warmth from the people I come in contact with. I was always aware of their special quality of friendliness. I have the unique experience of being in Beijing on the night the Chinese win their bid to host the 2008 Summer Olympics. On that night, I am one of 1.5 million people who poured into the streets to express their joy and gratitude. I walked with them and shake hands with as many people as I could while I sang out the words, Gong Xi Ni Ba. Congratulations. Didn't think I knew that, did you? My words are always met with big smiles and enthusiastic handshakes. Those parents with kids on their shoulders, teenagers, and many others feel as if the rest of the world was welcoming them into the global community. Now I wish them the best, and I am hoping to return one day. If you take a trip to China, you will experience the same kind of hospitality. All right, so let's see what you got. All right, so Experience should be experienced. Come should be came. I came in contact with. Have should be had. I had the unique experience. HAD. Win should be won. The Chinese won their bid to host the 2008 Summer Olympics. I am should be I was. One of a million. Shake should be shook. I walked with them and shook hands. Are should be was. My words, excuse me, is that words or what? Word? Excuse me, my words were. That is not, that there's an S there. There's a little smudge there. My words were always met. Feel should be felt, and many others felt, as if the rest of the world. Okay, and that's it. Those are the 8. All right, so that completes the lesson for part 4 of Unit 1. Next, we will go back to Unit, we're staying in Unit 1. We'll go back to part 3. Okay. All right, so again, if you have any questions at this point, you should write them down and then post them. I might create a forum on Facebook to make it a little bit easier, but you can post your questions. I really don't want you to individually message me because there are 101 of you. There's no way I can respond to you all individually like that. So I'll look into posting a forum if you have any questions. So now at this point, with everything that you learned in part 4 in sentence structure, you need to go to your first draft of your process analysis essay and look for any mistakes and correct those mistakes. I highly recommend you do that now before you go to the next part, the next slide. All right, good luck and see you soon. Okay, everyone, let's continue. If you paused and took a break, I hope you had a lovely break. I know I paused and took a break. All right. So now we're in Unit 1 again, but we've gone backwards. We've gone to part 3. We're going to talk about unity and coherence. So please follow along with me on starting on page 12. Make sure you have your pen or pencil ready. This part should take a little bit less time because honestly, grammar always takes more explanation, but in this case, I would hope by now most of you understand what it means by unity and coherence. We've gone over it several times when it comes to essay structure. I've told you that everything in your essay has to be supported by the thesis, everything. And all of your topic sentences for each body paragraph has to relate to the thesis. Now within the paragraph, that's a different story. All of those supporting details need to relate to your topic sentence. So I've told you for the big picture, everything in your essay needs to be supported by the thesis. Your topic sentences need to be supported by the thesis. Your topic sentences need to support the thesis. When we're looking at the individual paragraph, all those details within the paragraph have to support your topic sentence. If they don't, you got to take that out. So we're going to talk about unity within the paragraph and briefly talk about how to edit within the paragraph. And then we'll go from there with some practice, and we'll talk about coherence, pretty much like transitioning, making logical sense, which is very important. And then we will briefly talk about let's see, ordering coherence and pronoun reference, that should go by pretty quickly. And we'll talk a little bit about parallelism as well. So I talked to you about parallelism in the beginning, and I said that it's going to come back to haunt you. Parallel, just like a street, it's adjacent to each other. So everything that you start with in the beginning needs to be the same throughout either the sentence or the paragraph. Even when it comes to editing a document, you shouldn't have one paragraph that's all out of format and then the other one is a different format. Okay, maybe you have one paragraph that looks like how it's supposed to be, double spaced and indented and nice, and then your next paragraph is single spaced and there's no indentation and it's just all over the place. That's not parallel. Okay, we don't want to do that in even in formatting. So on page 12 it says unity. Effective writing must have unity. Everything has to be combined and supported within the essay. So unity within a paragraph, like I already told you, all the sentences have to support the topic sentence. And the topic sentence is your main idea. This is why your topic sentence cannot be too specific, nor can it be too broad. It has to be brief, to the point, concise. It just needs to introduce the topic for that paragraph. If you give us too much, then there's nothing else to say. Okay, so if you're too specific, there's nothing else to say. If you're too broad, there's no way you're going to be able to talk about all of those topics in one paragraph. Even if you write a 10-sentence paragraph, usually it's not going to happen. We saw that example with the short essay, but notice how long that short essay's body paragraph was. Okay, in a 3-body paragraph essay, you're not going to probably take all that space. Continuing on, let's see, the topic sense of a paragraph should focus on one topic and a controlling idea. That topic is the controlling idea. The topic is its own, related back, of course, to your thesis, and the controlling idea is pretty much the reason in a sense. So you've seen controlling idea from the thesis, and I said it's related to your claim, which is your opinion. The controlling idea is pretty much that reason why you're writing it. Okay, it doesn't have to be the how, it's just the reason. Okay, the sky is blue. Okay, so your topic might be about the sky and the color of it, but where's the controlling idea? Has been questioned. The idea that the sky is blue has been questioned. Okay, so I have a controlling idea that there are people who do not agree that the sky is blue, and there's been some research done to prove otherwise. So, and that way, you have a controlling idea. If the information in your paragraph, if it's not relevant, then it just takes out the whole unity of it. Let's look at the example. So the paragraph below contains sentences that do not support the topic and controlling idea. So Jay Gatsby was my favorite character in the novel The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. This is a classic American novel. Okay? You're probably thinking, well, why? What's the problem with that? Well, if you really wanted to talk about the fact that it's a classic American novel, maybe you want to add that as additional information, in your topic sentence, even though, like I said, you don't want to be too specific, but if you want to, you can. Honestly, yes, you do want to assume that your audience, your audience is ignorant, but not so much so that you are belittling them. We know The Great Gatsby is a classic American novel. If the topic were different, let's say we were talking about the book in general, okay, then maybe in that case, maybe we would talk about the fact that it's a classic American novel. But the topic is that the character himself is his favorite character in the book. We're not talking about the book itself, right? So the topic, be careful. Jay Gatsby is his favorite character in the novel. So we need to focus on the character, right? So this is a classic American novel. It's not essential information. Take it out. One of the qualities I valued most about him was his generosity and loyalty to his friends and neighbors. For example, he gave many extravagant parties and never thought about the cost. He invited anyone he knew and liked regardless of their social status. Okay, so far we're fine. His large home was situated on the water on Long Island. Okay, why do I care? It's not essential. We don't need to worry about that. So also, I've seen this also in your writing, like there's just a random fact in there, and it's not supported by any controlling idea. So when I say this is random, or you need to add more support to support this statement, I'm not saying that, oh, you need to write more, so to speak. You need to relate it back to your controlling idea. Does it really relate to the topic? Maybe not. Maybe not. Okay, so let's keep going. Okay, so then it says, in fact, he befriended a struggling young man and offered to help him earn more money. Okay, so that relates back to the previous idea about his social status. This book is required reading in many college courses because it reveals the lifestyle of the 1920s. That's not the topic. The controlling idea is about Jay Gatsby and the fact that it's this writer's favorite character. Okay? So this is not related. Although this young man remained faithful to Gatsby, others took advantage of his good nature. That relates back to him befriending a struggling man that he offered help to. So this is what we're talking about when we're talking about unity. Everything needs to go back to that topic and that controlling idea. See, it might be related to the topic, because the topic in general, if you think that the topic is the book itself, then you've already messed up. So that's the overall topic, the fact that this character is in the book, but the topic, the controlling idea, is not the book itself. It's the character within the book. Okay, so let's try for some practice. Where's my pen? Okay, let's see. Exercise 1, editing for unity. We're still on page 12. Okay, so here the first one's done for us. There are 6 more sentences that are irrelevant. So I'm going to read through it, and I'd like you to go through and delete or cross through those that are irrelevant. Having my friends and family together at my wedding was an amazing experience. I had not seen some of my uncles, cousins, and aunts for many years. That sentence is crossed out. Both my mother and father were born in different countries, so my relatives are scattered all over the world. I really like traveling and have been to Europe and Asia. Although we try to get together for important occasions, this was the first time everyone could attend. Most importantly, my good friends had never met my relatives. Developing good friendships takes a lot of work. Watching them all dancing, laughing, and having a wonderful time will stay in my memory forever. Okay, so that's the first paragraph. Next paragraph. The band we hired played music that the guests loved, and we danced for hours. My original guest list had over 200 people, but I had to cut it down to 150. It was difficult finding a group that could play all the diverse styles that I wanted at the wedding. Most bands specialize in 1 or 2 different kinds of music. However, these musicians really knew all types of music, from 1940s jazz and swing to salsa, merengue, and even hip-hop. My brother was once in a rock and roll band. In short, there was music to suit everyone's taste. I loved this singer's dress. It was incredible. Even my grandparents danced all night. Okay, at this point, if you need extra time, please pause the PowerPoint or pause the audio. Okay, so very quickly going back to page 12, one of the irrelevant statements was, I really like traveling and have been to Europe and Asia. That has nothing to do with the controlling idea. Doesn't have anything to do with the topic. The topic says, having my friends and family together at my wedding was an amazing experience. So that doesn't support the topic about she liking to travel to Europe and Asia, or, you know, she's been there and she likes to travel. Doesn't make any sense. The next sentence, developing good friendships takes a lot of work. That needs to be taken out. That has nothing to do with the topic, and it does not transition. So she said, most importantly, my good friends had never met my relatives. Well, developing good friendships, that's not the topic. That doesn't relate back to the controlling topic. Okay, why it was an amazing experience. Okay. Next sentence, my original guest list had over 200 people, but I had to cut it down to 150. No one cares. First and foremost, that's not, it's irrelevant, okay? The topic is the band we hired played music that the guests loved and we danced for hours. So I expect you to talk about the music that was played, why and how the guests loved it, and maybe a little something about dancing, but not you having to cut back your list. Keep on going down that paragraph. My brother was once in a rock and roll band. Again, irrelevant, and who cares? Okay, if this was a conversation, this would be different. All the time in conversations, we go off and talk about random things that probably doesn't relate to our controlling idea. But this is an essay, so spoken language in general, not just English, but spoken language and written are very different. The next sentence next two sentences, you need to admit, I loved the singer's dress. It was incredible. Wonderful, mashallah. But that has nothing to do with the topic. And then we go from there. Everything else is fine. So when you get to review your first draft, you also need to do the same thing. You need to go through and read every single sentence and say to yourself, does this relate back to my controlling idea? Is this relevant according to my controlling idea? Might be relevant to your topic or part of your topic, but is it really relevant to your controlling idea? And I can tell you, you really need to take time on that, especially after reading some of your cause and effect essays, which you will eventually get back. There might be limited feedback on some of these, but the rubric explains it in most cases. I can't resist making markings on it. Even if I try, I can't resist it. So you'll get some feedback at least. You need to work on unity and coherence within your paragraph. And you need to do that for every sentence, and you need to do that for every paragraph. Yep. Writing is a process. I have to do it, so do you. Okay, rhetorical focus, unity within an essay. Again, all of our topic sentences need to relate back to what? The thesis. Yes, you thought you got away from thesis, didn't you? No. Thesis. It has to relate to the thesis. Okay, so if you look on page 13, we have the thesis, which is my wedding day was the most thrilling day of my life. So my claim is there. There's really no reasons in there, so that to me would not be the best thesis statement, but this is not academic, obviously. This is not really a great academic example for this, for this. They're giving you a very simple example. But for a informal essay, yeah, sure, that's a fine thesis. So her opinion, or his opinion, could be a he, is that his or her wedding day was the most thrilling day of his or her life. Okay, so the topic sentence for the first body paragraph, having my friends and family together at my wedding was an amazing experience. I expect you to explain why. The band we hired played music that the guests loved, and we danced for hours. Okay, we just read a paragraph about that, so we know what to expect. And then topic 3, pretty sure the preparations for the wedding were exhausting. Okay, now when it comes to logical order, let's look at this. Something's not right, is there? So in the example below, topic sentences 1 and 2 both support the thesis. However, the topic sentence 3 goes off topic. I caught that right away. And I am doing this this PowerPoint as a lesson. I've reviewed, of course, all the material, but I'm just going through it. And I'm reading this for the first time. And I noticed right away, something is not right. Okay, topic 3, the preparation for the wedding, preparations were exhausting. First of all, it doesn't go back to the thesis. You're going to focus on the most positive. Now, that's not to say that the writer can't mention a negative in his or her essay. Most of the essay should be positive according to the thesis, but some negative could be mentioned in there, but not in the topic sentence, because the topic sentence has to support the thesis. So now you've told me it's the most thrilling day, and you're going back and telling me how exhausting the wedding preparations were. Not only that, it's in an illogical order. Why are you telling me about the preparations in body paragraph 3? Doesn't make sense. Okay, so you also need to check your essays for unity and coherence in this case. You are doing a process analysis essay, and it's even more crucial that it makes sense in a logical order. Okay, so let's do some practice. On page 14, exercise 2. Okay, let's look at the thesis and let's look at the topic sentences, and let's see what do you think supports the thesis. Okay. All right, let's see. The thesis in number 1 says, after 2 years of job hunting, I have finally found the perfect job for me. So the job is found. Okay, it's done. So the topic sentences, have a read through that, and then mark which ones you think are good. So I'm going to do a short pause, but if you need longer, you need to pause. Okay, so for the topic sentences that I chose, okay, some are still a little questionable. I am enthusiastic about the challenges that I confront at work every day. That, hands down, is a supporting topic sentence, because the writer told us that there was a long period of job hunting and he or she finally found the perfect job. So why? Why is it perfect? After 2 years, why is this perfect? I'm enthusiastic about the challenges that I confront at work every day. Great, and I expect you to talk to me about it. This is not in a specific order. Last year, I almost got a good job. Okay, well, this would make sense. This could make sense because the person was job hunting for 2 years and finally found a good job. I think it would be interesting to know what happened, and everything like that. It could work. So we could put a question mark by that. C, I am making more money than I have ever made and have so many benefits. Okay, this one is a better topic sentence. Okay, it's also parallel to A, I am. And you can explain, okay, so now maybe you're going to tell me about your salary, that you used to make. Tell me more about those benefits. And you see a word that I don't like, right? Many. I don't like the word many in a topic sentence. So I should say to this, but this would be considered a good topic sentence for this thesis. Again, I would avoid many. Because, I mean, unless this person, that maybe this person will actually achieve the goal. When you guys were writing yours, you weren't doing that because you were trying to put too many topics in a very short paragraph about one topic. In this case, this person has more paragraphs. Like, for example, the best country assignment, you guys put way too many details in there. You didn't have a focus. In this case, this person has 3 body paragraphs, so he or she can do it. Those are the top 3 for me. One, I did not like the job I had before. Well, some of you might have said, this can work. Well, not really, because why? Why do we care about that? Where's the controlling idea? You found the perfect job, so why do we need to talk about the job you had before? Obviously, D doesn't make any sense. Well, I'm sorry. D could make sense. My boss is very supportive and is helping me succeed. I am sorry. Let me reword that. B doesn't make much sense either, though it could work. D would make better sense. My boss is very supportive and helping me to succeed. So, my opinion, A, C, and D, as in diamond, would be the best topic sentences. B doesn't make much sense. E, I meant to say, doesn't make any sense. B, could work, but not the best one. So A, C, and D. Okay, let's go to number 2. Skiing is a great sport, but it is not for everyone. Again, I will briefly pause. If you need more time, you can pause as well. Okay, so now for this one, could be questionable. For sure, B is a good topic sentence. Topic sentence for the thesis. Becoming a good skier means taking certain risks that some people are afraid to take. Okay? To me, it supports the topic. It's not for everyone. Okay? So it includes certain risks that some people are afraid to take. I didn't say all people or people in general, some people. Okay, so I expect the writer to tell me why. You could say skiing down the highest slope can be dangerous because if it's dangerous, maybe that's why it's not for everyone. And then there could be, you could also say for a third one, a day on the slopes is not always affordable for everyone. So it's not probably for everyone because of the cost. Okay, so those 3, B, D as in diamond, E as in elephant, makes the most sense to me. Not everyone has the ability to ski well. For A, yeah, that's obvious. That's pretty obvious. So, and that doesn't matter either. Some people will do it even if they can't ski well. And then C, skiing is more difficult than ice skating. Is this a comparison and contrast essay? Like where did the topic of ice skating just come in? It's completely random. So A and C are not the best choices. Again, for 2, B as in boy, D as in diamond, E as in elephant. Makes the most sense. Okay, we're going to keep moving along. There might be a pause soon. Let's see. Good. Okay, so coherence. Yes, I'm a little distracted, sorry. On page 14 at the bottom, rhetorical focus, coherence. Coherence means everything is logical. Okay, so without transitions, it's not logical. It's illogical, right? I think you guys really need to work on your transitions. You know, and vary it up. Like some of you use moreover and however and therefore, and which is good too. I mean, those are great transitions. There's other ways that you can transition with the sentence itself. but I won't go into that too much. So on page 14, using transitions for expressions for coherence. So transition expressions show how one sentence relates to another and create a logical flow. Okay. Example, she likes to read novels, however, she does not enjoy biographies. If we took out however, it's just a little choppy, right? She likes to read novels. She does not enjoy biographies. Pooh. And if we made it a compound, it still sounds a little bit choppy and childish. She likes to read novels and she does not enjoy biographies. Well, I think, however, is really good in this case. They can also we can also put emphasis using these transitions. Transition expressions are separated from the rest of the sentence by commas as well. I enjoy writing in my journal. However, I do not like writing letters. You can take that and you can combine it with a semicolon. I usually do that if they're much longer sentences. Okay, I'll use a semicolon, however, or therefore, and then comma. The next example says, I enjoy writing in my journal. I do not like writing letters, however. It's a style thing. I do that as well. It just depends on, if I want to emphasize a point or I just want to vary my sentence structure. I might do it that way. On the next page, page 15, transition expressions can be used with a semicolon, like I just told you, okay, to form a compound sentence. And yes, that is a compound sentence, even without the fanboys. Below is a list of some transition words and their use. Most of you, I think, are familiar with this. For instance, to demonstrate, for example, in some cases, moreover, furthermore, in addition, or in addition to, however, in contrast, on the contrary, or contrary to, contrary to. Well, contrary to is better for a subordinating conjunction, to be honest with you. Same thing with in addition to. So excuse me with those prepositions. You can use them as a transition itself, but that would be better for a complex sentence. So stick with the list here. On the contrary, nevertheless, nonetheless. Okay. Cause, like in your cause and effect essay, as a result, some of you used it, therefore, thus. It's one of the ones I like the best. Consequently. And then emphasis, indeed, in fact, obviously. You want to put emphasis on something. All right, again, questions, you can always post them. Page 15, still we're on page 15, go down to exercise 3. Let's identify some coherence. So, again, number 1 is done for us. It makes a lot of sense. Let me read it out to you. In many ways, the invention of email and computers has motivated many young people to take up letter writing. Email makes it fun and easy to get in touch with far-away friends. If I just kept going, for these reasons, fewer people are sending letters through email. It could work, but a transition would make it much better. So furthermore, email is convenient and essentially free. Okay, so it gives me like a reason. Why am I talking about this topic? And why are these young people now using email? Okay, and number 2, I'll let you read it. If you need to pause, please do. Okay, so for number 2, the answer would be B. In fact, many people listen to these tapes while driving to and from work. Okay, it makes the most sense to transition. Stephen King's latest book is available in this format. It makes no sense here. Okay, number 3, that's Don Quixote de la Mancha. It's a very famous epic, Spanish epic. Again, pause if you need to. Okay, the answer for number 3 would be A. He traveled the world as a ridiculous knight along with his friend Sancho Panza. okay, because it gives us more of a reason. So this is the story of a man who read so many books on chivalry and knighthood that he went crazy. Okay, so he traveled the world as a ridiculous knight along with his friend Sancho Panza. And together they had many adventures, because otherwise, who are you talking about? And together with who? Right? So A would make the better transition. Okay. So on page 16, we have exercise 4. You can only use each word once. Okay, so therefore is already used. And I had to read through all of these 1 or 2 times just to make sure I was correct. So number 2, learning a foreign language takes a lot of patience and effort. It helps to have a good ear. My choice was moreover. So moreover, it helps to have a good ear. Okay, number 3, the college student was told to revise her essay a 3rd time. She has still made great progress with her writing skills. Okay, I chose nevertheless. If you don't know what nevertheless means, it's like even so. It's another way of saying however, or in spite of. Okay. Number 4, John Steinbeck, a famous American author, wrote many books concerning the human condition. His novel, The Grapes of Wrath, dealt with the problems of the Great Depression. Okay, I chose in contrast. I'm sorry, I looked at the wrong one. Number 4 is for example. For example. So, for example, his novel, The Grapes of Wrath, dealt with the problems of the Great Depression. Sorry. Okay, number 5. Academic writing requires a knowledge of standard grammar, sophisticated vocabulary, and proper organization. Email messages use abbreviations, symbols, and slang. Okay, so for this one, we have 2 opposing ideas. Okay, but we can't use, however, because it's not in the box. So in contrast. Number 5 is in contrast. Number 6, process of elimination. You should be able to figure that out. So nowadays, research is often done on the internet. Important information was stored on special film called microfiche. Okay, so we can go quickly on that one. Previously important information was stored on. Okay, if you hear a cat in the background, you are correct. It's not my cat. But anyway, let's keep going. All right, page 17. Let's go through a little bit faster. Ordering ideas for coherence. So you already know how to arrange ideas in chronological order. You can use language like in the beginning, next, then, first, second, or finally. Okay, so this you know how to do. Also, you can arrange ideas in order of importance, which is quite important to remember. You can use language like most or least important, not thing. Why this book is using thing, I want to throw it out the window. No, no, no. You can use words like aspect if you want to, but not thing, okay? There are so many nouns in the English language. Use them, okay? Or you can use the word aspect. Don't use thing. So the most important aspect or least important aspect. The next priority or the second priority, you can say the most important or the more important, you can do whatever you want, aspect, third, final, priority, goal. So these different words can help you order the topics by importance. An example, the most important aspect for me was to understand the assigned topic before attempting my first draft. Okay, so in A, they actually want you to write the paragraph. So pause the video because I'm going to keep going. So pause here for A. Boil water, add rice, cook for about 20 minutes. All right. If you want to make rice, first boil some water, then add the rice to the pot. Finally, cook it for about 20 minutes. Simple. Okay. For B, it's a little bit different. It asks you to arrange the information in order of importance. Okay. So pause the video here. All right, so for B, I wrote a topic sentence. And yes, I use second person. I don't recommend that for academic writing, you know that, but I did use second person. If you want to improve your Spanish, follow these steps, or you should follow these steps. You can say the most important step is to take a class, and I would explain why in an actual paragraph. The most important step is to take a class. As a learner of a different language, you need to learn the grammar structure, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, the next priority is to, or you could also say would be to, practice with friends and family, or practice with friends. That makes the most sense. And then finally, you can give an example for the practice with friends if you want to. But finally, if conducive to your situation, I would say. So finally, if conducive to your situation, visit a Spanish-speaking country. And why is this technically the least important or the third choice? And that's because not everybody has the opportunity to travel. Not everybody has the opportunity to travel. So, you know, you have to keep that in mind. So first you should take a class, then you should practice, and if you have the chance, go visit the country in which the people speak the language. Makes sense, right? Got it. All right, so page 18 should be a quick one. Use pronoun reference for coherence. The most that I have to say on this one, because I don't think I'm going to go through exercise 6, I would hope by now you know this. I haven't seen too many issues with you knowing the correct pronouns. It's just using them, I guess I could say. So you know, if it's a he, you should use his or him or something like that. But most of you don't have a lot of issues with pronouns. But of course, you don't want to keep repeating the subject. Okay, so that's why we use pronouns. But I also like to say that when you are writing, you need to remember that sometimes you might have to repeat the subject. It's not repetition, so to speak. It's clarity. So if you're writing about The Great Gatsby, the book itself, and halfway through you're explaining a different point, and you might need to mention the book again. You keep using it. After a while, it's like, well, what it are you referring to? Are you referring to a different topic? What are you doing? So that's my point about pronouns. Just remember, you might want to mention the subject again. And then finally, we go to page 19, and we're looking at rhetorical focus. Okay? And we're looking at parallelism. So again, parallelism is very important in grammar and sentence structure and your essays and your formatting. What you do from the beginning, you keep doing. What you start with, you keep doing it. Don't change it. And you guys do need to work a lot on parallelism. I think it's a new concept. It is a higher level concept, so it needs some work. Looking at the examples, I like playing tennis, swimming, and dancing. Okay, versus I like playing tennis, swimming, and to dance. To dance is not parallel. You used playing in the beginning, so keep using the gerund, the ing form. She cooked dinner, set the table, and arranged the flowers. Okay, she cooked dinner, set the table, and the flowers were arranged. And even native speakers are guilty of that, but the flowers were arranged is incorrect. Don't do that. It's passive tense, but it's not parallel. You said cooked. You use simple past in the beginning. Continue. Notice that we also didn't keep repeating the pronoun or the verb. I like playing tennis, like swimming, like dancing. No. You don't have to keep repeating certain words like to or the verb itself. You're just repeating the verb itself in the correct form. And this is only when we're talking about grammar. There's other ways that we need to look, other ways to mimic parallelism. But in this case, we're just focusing on grammatical forms. So exercise 7, number 1 is done for us. So at the age of 20, I started to write plays, taking acting lessons, and produce shows. Why is that wrong? You started with started, and then you went into taking. And you need to continue what you did. Number 2, as a teenager, I reported on school events, editing articles for the high school newspaper, and published some of the stories. If you looked at editing and said that's incorrect, you are correct. That is incorrect. We should say edited. E-D-I-T-E-D. Number 3, some of the rewards of being an author are learn about historical events, researching the lives of famous people, and discovering facts about yourself. Okay, so not only is it not parallel, it's not even grammatically correct. Are learn? No. So are learning. Okay, in that case, it's not even grammatically correct, so that would need to be corrected anyway. So are learning about historical events. Now, do we keep repeating are? No. Okay, so you're just repeating the verb itself. Okay? If your verbs in this case are all the same tenses, you don't need to keep repeating the linking verb in this case. Number 4, attending workshops on writing have taught me to receive criticism, became a more focused writer, and take more risks. Okay, again in number 4, hopefully I gave you enough time. Again in number 4, it's not even grammatically correct. It's not consistent with the verbs. So attending workshops on writing have taught me how to receive criticism, become, B-E-C-O-M-E. Because why are we using present tense? Okay, and take more risks. Because we use to receive. It's the infinitive. Taught me is the conjugated verb. Have taught me, excuse me. To receive. But notice that we don't keep repeating to. Oh, this cat, poor kitty. To receive criticism. To become a more focused writer. To take more risks. No, that's not good parallelism. We don't need to repeat unessential or inessential words, excuse me. We don't need to repeat those words. All right, so parallelism doesn't mean repetition. It just means that what you started with, you continue with when it comes to your grammatical structures, when it comes to your format, so on and so forth. All right, so that completes pretty much this whole lesson. So as you can see, it's taken quite a bit of time. Do not worry. The next PowerPoint should be about an hour. So let's see. Technically, you have 3 hours in a week, even though you guys get to leave 10 minutes early. So the next one will be about an hour. At this point, I expect you to go ahead and check your first drafts for unity and coherence. Make sure that everything makes sense according to your thesis and your topic sentences. Also, make sure you're using parallel forms. Make sure your verbs are consistent. Make sure you are using the correct pronouns. Make sure that you are listing your ideas in order. Make sure that you are using transitions. Okay? It's a lot, but once you get the hang of it, then it just becomes part of the process. Like, I do this as a native speaker every single time. So you will have to do the same thing. And this, don't think that we're just doing this for this essay. No, this process needs to be done every single essay, every time you write. So remember all of these details, okay? And you will get better at it. Thank you, everyone. That completes the lesson for Sunday, pretty much. I will post the next one soon, maybe earlier, if you'd like to just keep on going. Anyway, if you did not review your essay along with my lecture, make sure you go back and do the appropriate edits. Again, your second draft is due on March 22nd. You may not submit it any earlier than 7 a.m. on March 21st. Make your edits, please. Your next lesson will be in Unit 2. We're going to talk about time clauses. We're still editing. We're going to talk about time clauses. We're going to talk about passive voice, and along with some practice, and then putting it all together. Okay, so in that case, everything that we have done, you will have learned and reviewed these concepts. You will have applied them to your draft, and then we can move on to the next topic, despite you having your exams or not. Okay, I've done a lot of talking. I hope you have a good day or good evening. And if you have questions, again, you can post them on the Facebook post that this lesson has been posted, or I will create a forum. I will see how the Facebook page works. Please, 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 there are 101 of you. Do not message me individually for questions relating to the lesson, because it will be overwhelming. Okay, take care, everybody.